Hi, I'm Diane, and you probably know me from before, or maybe you don't know me. But my name is Diane Greco-Allen, and I'm a food relationship coach certified in functional medicine. Today is session 3 on the Family Food Epiphany series, and it's all about food safety and how we can get better foods into our life, into our families, and really get up to date on the best ways we can do that. So today I have as a co-host Lindley Wells. Now she's somebody that's got a background in we want to learn a little bit about her. So I'm going to let Lindley tell me or share with us what her background is and what she's done, because she's done some pretty inspiring things throughout her life. And I've read on her LinkedIn profile, she's got some wonderful background. So Lindley, tell me a little bit about what you've done in your past.
Sure. Thank you, Diane. It's nice to be here with you. Diane and I met. One of the silver linings, I guess, of COVID is that you can connect with people virtually now. So Dr. Greg Natello connected us. He's a cardiometabolic doctor. And so we've had some nice chats ever since. But a little bit about myself. My undergraduate degree is in environmental policy. My master's is in nutrition and integrative health. And while I was getting my master's, I did a brief internship at Mark Hyman's Ultra Wellness Center, where I just started to learn more about functional and integrative medicine and nutrition. And then after my graduate studies, I went on to work with Cara Fitzgerald for a year in her clinic, which really kind of solidified a lot for me, much more of my interest really in personalized nutrition and the amazing ways that just making simple lifestyle and nutrition changes can really impact one's health. And then most recently, I've done a little bit of work with Dr. Aviva Ram. She puts out a lot of educational content, so I helped her a bit with that and kind of structuring and tightening up her nutrition protocols a bit. So I've kind of spanned the gamut a bit in the kind of functional nutrition health space. And currently I work for a company based out in San Francisco called Better Up, and I work as a nutrition specialist for them. So I see clients virtually from all over the world. So that's a little bit about me.
I can say that I am just totally impressed with your age and what you've done and all that you have. You've touched every little aspect of functional medicine. You know, as a 50-year-old woman, I was just learning about some of these things. And so for you to have been involved with some of these names and these conglomerates, I mean, especially the Ultra Wellness Center up in New York, I don't know if it was the one in New York.
It's in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Okay, that's right. Yeah. So, and I actually drove up there to visit that place, and my book was the front of my book has Elizabeth Bain in it. So, she's somebody who helped me with that, and I went to an IHS conference in New York and met her, and so many of those people, except for they're just huge, people that have really invested their time and energy into really getting into defining what, we really need to look at, which is the root of our health problems. And so I really appreciate you being a part of this. So there was one thing, though, that I do have to ask you about, and it was on your LinkedIn profile. There was something about the Sandy Hook promise. Were you a part of that?
So Dr. Fitzgerald's clinic is called the Sandy Hook Clinic. It's based in Sandy Hook.
I did not realize that.
Yep. So we worked, her clinic is pretty much remote, at least for the nutrition team. Because I'm not too far away, I was able to drive down there. So that was a really wonderful experience to kind of see it in real life. So.
Well, that's another great reason why I believe that we're connected, because I'm a huge advocate for everything that they are promoting through Sandy Hook Promise and all that. It's a tough situation, and everybody has to be aware about it. So we're going to dive right in to talk about a little, all the things that we need to. I'm going to share my screen with our agenda, and we're going to dive into the food prep part of things, because sometimes it's not so easy to really get this on our schedules and to really make it happen. So so one of the things that I have set up is this food prep questionnaire. And so we're just going to really briefly go over this. And this was part of my series of, let's see how I can do this without, there you go. So these are questions that came from coaching, chef coaching and beyond through the Harvard Medical School. And I did that training over the summer. And it was great. I was among other professionals who really, a lot of them really didn't even know how to boil an egg, or they just didn't know how to do certain things because they went to medical school and they just put all their time and energy into doing everything with whatever their profession was. So here's a question for you, and if you were watching this at a later time, you can put this in the chat box, or you can listen to it, write it down, and then let me know if we meet up, because I'd like to learn a little bit more. And Lindley, you can always answer if you want to for any of these. During the last 3 months, what were your main food sources? Was it food that I cook, food that my spouse or children cook? I usually eat out, which now with COVID, that's a question mark, and ready to eat food that I warm up. Do you have any responses, Lindley, that you want to share?
I'm the main chef in my house, so it's food that I cook, definitely.
Okay, there you go. And tonight we're just solo with Lindley and I, so we're just going to keep on going. And like I said, if you really want to think about these questions when you start, thinking about what you're doing for yourself with cooking. During the last 3 months, what were your main lunch sources? I usually skip lunch, cooked food from home, ready to eat food from home. I usually eat out.
Well, I love my leftovers, so that's usually what my lunch is. That's why I try to make bigger dinners, so I have food for lunch.
I think that is great, because that is, now, how am I going to go down on this? Okay, this is my trick. Lindley, tell me what I'm doing and what I can do. I just need to scroll.
Scroll, yep.
Where is that scroll marker? Here it is. Okay, during the last 3 months, how many family meals, either eating them with your spouse, family, friends, do you eat in an average week?
So we eat, my fiance works from home, I work from home, so we eat pretty much all 3 meals a day together. That's kind of our special time together, so we're very lucky.
Oh, very nice. And since I'm doing all my own cooking too, that's exactly what I've been doing most of the time, except for special events and occasions. I sometimes go out, and I've been very fortunate because I live right across the street from a little area that has some nice places like Hello Fresh, and not Hello Fresh, Hello Bistro. It's Hello Bistro. And then there's another little one too. So yeah, everybody's in a different situation with their family. And so that's something to consider. How important is it to have the ability to prepare healthy meals, and then rate your importance? What do you think, Lindley?
Well, given my background in nutrition, it's pretty important to me. And also I have certain things that I can't eat. So it helps me when I prepare it at home. I know exactly what goes in the food that I'm eating. So I would say it's probably a 10.
A 10, that's great. And that would be for me too, because I've learned that You cannot rely on going someplace and expecting that they're going to have the food for you that you can eat or not eat. So yeah, being prepared is always wonderful. So how confident are you in the ability to prepare healthy meals? Please rate your self from 1 to 10, not confident at all. I'm going to say automatically Lindley gets a 10 on that because I already feel
I think if you
confident.
asked other people, they'd probably say that too. I mean, I started cooking when I was about 8 years old, so I've had a lot of practice in the kitchen, I would say. So I haven't gotten too many bad reviews over the years, but
That's great. Now, my daughter's trying to, I think, access to get on, but we'll have to keep an eye for her because she's somebody that's, we'll look for her. Lindley, you tell me if you see anybody.
yep.
Okay, so please select the one statement below that best represents your readiness to increase how often you cook for yourself. Now, I know that for both of us, this is, we are already in the process, but for other people, this is a great questionnaire for anybody who really wants to just investigate where they are, what they need to do, and gives them a general idea of what they might be willing to do, and if they're willing to change at all, because some people are so reliable. I know there's somebody in my family who has never really cooked. He relied on everybody else to cook and ate out all the time. And then he became such a collector of all these plastics that, so there are those people that have, that he's a businessman and that's all he did was rely on, these things. So yes, so that's one thing there. Yeah, I think that is a great questionnaire to start off with, just getting a general idea for some of these things. And then let's figure out where we're going to go next with all this stuff, because I really have fallen in love. You have those great people that you admire and have been a part of. I fell in love with Katie Wells, who has the same last name, and you guys are not
related.
Yeah,
but
you're not related. But I think that's why I thought, oh my gosh, I've got Lindley Wells on, and we're talking about Katie Wells. Now, this young girl just went full steam ahead, just dove into things without even knowing where she was going. She just dove into it. I wish at that age I would have done that. I went down such a horrible path. And so I just thought that we would jump onto this site because I had already, I will put into it's not going to be in the chat box. It'll be on my page for the health of it, but it'll be just a little bit of an outline of her guide to meal planning. And I thought we'd just go over it real quickly because it makes all the difference in the world. And she does have all kinds of little links you can click on to. She makes a profit from every click on her site. Smartest woman in the world. Someday maybe I'll do the same, but right now I just want to share that information to say, why would there be any benefit to meal planning? It might sound like such a pain in the tush, but actually there are benefits, and saving money is one of them, because if you're planning and you have that food available to you, you are less likely to just be buying large amounts of food at different times when you're hungry. When you're hungry, what happens? What do you think, Lindley? When you're hungry?
Well, I always say never go to the grocery store hungry, because that always ends badly, but.
It's exactly right, because you're just going to pick up whatever looks satisfying to you. And most of the time, I think that's what it is. And sometimes it's those pre-cooked chickens, those warm, what are they called?
Rotisserie.
The rotisserie chickens. They're always there. And when you go into that one section, you smell that rotisserie chicken coming at you. That thing's filled with just like tons of stuff. It's got so much sodium and who knows what else they inject into those chickens. If it's like the only thing at the last, that's the only thing you can buy. I'm not going to down anything that's protein, but that thing's probably got massive amounts of everything negative in there, you know. But, so saving money is one of the things that I really think is beneficial. Eating real food. Who knew that we weren't eating real food? I didn't know it. I was a nurse, you know, who knew it? I thought that eating real food was eating mashed potatoes and gravy and, that big turkey with all that stuffing. And I thought that was real food. I thought ice cream was part of real food. You don't know what real food is until you get real sick. and eating all those pies and eating all those, those desserts first, and then that fills you up. So, Lindley Wells, when did you find out what real food was?
Oh gosh, probably when we started a CSA, a community supported agriculture. So we bought a share at a local farm, and that was probably when I was 10 or 12. And so we'd go every week and we'd, pick out the vegetables. And I was very interested in learning about them and making sure we used all of them. So I'd say probably around that time. I mean, I definitely, my parents are a little probably appalled now at some of the things they fed me when I was younger, but, they didn't know any better either. So I would say probably when I was about 10 or 12, I really started being more aware of, eating fruits and vegetables and things like that.
That's great. Now, I can say, even as a nurse or before I went into nursing, I did start looking at being more mindful about what I was eating. But like I was doing crazy things. I was like toasting a piece of toast, and I wouldn't cut it in half like you would normally cut a piece of bread. I cut it like vertically or something, like through the middle of it, and then I would pack it with cottage cheese. I would eat these cottage cheese toasted sandwiches like every day after school. And if it wasn't that, it was ice cream, or it was, I was always doing the dairy thing. And then we were Italian, so we had cheese until we were like so filled with cheese. I'm sure my arteries still have so much in them. I'm not joking. But anyway, so the real food part, my mom she made great salad. So that was one good thing that I learned. And I was more aware, but I didn't understand what real food was until I was 50. So eating real food is mostly plant-based or animal-based, and it is in the whole form. That produce section is so beneficial to us that we just sometimes, some people just go directly to the packages, but anything that's a package, that's a problem usually.
Sure. Usually the perimeter of the grocery store is where you want to stay. That's where the whole food is. When you get in the inner aisles, that's usually more of the packaged food.
I love it. Yeah, the perimeter is exactly, and that's what we were taught too. So, I mean, that's what I try to focus people to look at, and yeah, that's a wonderful thing to bring up. So don't waste food. Now, this part, don't waste food, is also a part of planning. So the planning part of it is, I don't know about you, Lindley, but I pick 2 days a week that I do my planning. And those 2 days, I always check, because I have 2 refrigerators. And so I always check to see if I have anything excess, or if I put something in the freezer that I forgot about, because you can plan and you can do all this planning, and then you find out later, oh, Toledo, I got stuff downstairs, I forgot about it, but don't waste food. So the plan part of, you're making these amounts that are for your portions or of that nature. And then you want to make sure that you keep up with what you're bringing into the home and what's going out, what needs to turn over, So do you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think what's helpful for me is I try to keep a pretty organized refrigerator, and that helps things not get hidden or back in a corner that you kind of forget about and then, goes bad or, whatever. But yeah, I'd say another thing that I like to do is, if I have leftovers, I leave the newest ones sorry, the oldest ones towards the front, so that those are the ones I see first. And if I'm going, for lunch the next day, I try to, use the ones that are closer to the front of the fridge. Um, but that's just some tips that work for me.
That's a great idea. My daughter introduced me to the idea too, because I was buying food and I was just throwing it into the refrigerator in the bags that I bought them in. She said, Mom, don't do that. She said, you will forget that you have food. And I have done that. And every time she'd come to my house, she told me, see, Mom, you left this in the drawer. It's been in there for too long and it's dying, So those things. So she taught me, and she's a culinary nutritionist, but everybody has to practice. It's a practice because this is the planning part of it. But she taught me not to put it in the bags in the refrigerator, chop it up, put it in your container, and then put your containers in the fridge. So that's what I learned from her. And it takes time to figure this out.
Yeah, and I would say there are certain things like greens that, if you wrap them in a towel and store them in a bag, they'll last much longer. There are certain foods like berries you wouldn't want to cut in advance because the berries will actually lose their, specifically like strawberries. Sometimes people cut the top off. You don't want to do that because that reduces the vitamin C in them. So, there's
Very
certain
good to
things.
know. Good to know.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
know that recently, but things like that you want to try to keep in the container and not cut them far in advance if you can avoid it.
there's something else that goes with this, and it's not just about food waste, but you're talking about the actual foods and preserving as much as you can from them. I don't know if you've heard this, but for celery, I have always chopped the bottom off and put it in water.
Yep,
Is that something that you've always, okay, so,
that's
and
great. Yep, and it's great for herbs, like cilantro or parsley can get a little limp, so you can kind of bring it back to life. Even lettuce you can bring back to life if it does get limp and you put it in water. So yeah, and there's so many great like storage containers
right.
now. I don't stasher bags are a great one that I love. You can
You know
easily.
what? Could you put that in the chat box? Because I have it so that we're going to save that. I do have some things we're going to be talking about after this little list here about these types of containers, because I actually have some of the containers that I use and that I purchased recently, and I'm going to make sure that they're put on also on the chat box. But yes, making sure that you have good containers, and we'll get to that. But right now, let's go through, because that's also part of the waste thing too, because then you have to clear out your containers and go to the next thing after it's done. And so less stress. Stress is bad, of course. We don't want to stress our food. We don't want to stress our life, and we don't want to stress our gut. So, stress, and if you have, a family, or like you traveled and you're at your parents' house and you had to reorient to the way things are done there, and so sometimes there is a little bit of stress with that type of stuff. Do you usually pack ahead of time when you travel, or what do you do?
In terms of food, yeah, I always bring my own food when I travel. I kind of have it, dialed down to, the things that I know I like to eat when I'm traveling and that pack well, because obviously when you're traveling, you don't want things really messy. But when I'm home, I always plan out all my meals over the weekend and I shop generally once. And because I don't like to try to figure out midway through the week what I'm going to have that night, that's stressful for me. So I would rather plan out the whole week and shop once. So that is something that helps me stay kind of less stressed throughout my week.
So there is a question about stress, and have you ever used any of the companies that send you food to see, how that works?
The only company I've ever used is a company called Daily Harvest. And it was more kind of, I guess, exploratory to learn about their smoothies, because I work with a lot of busy people who always are saying to me, I don't have time to make breakfast. And so I really like Daily Harvest. They come kind of these pre-made veggies, fruits, different, I'm trying to think what else is in them. I think sometimes they have chia seeds, flax seeds, and then all you have to do is pour it in your blender, add some liquid and blend it. So for people who are in a pinch, they can be great. So that's the only kind of service I've ever used, to send food.
Okay,
But
well,
I
that's
know they're
good.
very popular.
I have tried HelloFresh, and
Mhm.
I can say that it's packed with a lot of carbs. So,
Mm,
I couldn't get any keto meals from them, just to, even if I wanted to like use my own other carbohydrates, at
sure.
least get the keto ingredients. I've been actually trying to work with them to try to just send, because
Sure.
actually I like to send gifts sometimes. And if
Mhm.
I want to send a gift, I think of different services that might, but I thought about these stressful situations, or if you go on vacation, sometimes maybe you can have a service directly mail you some groceries, and there might be even a store that you could look in advance to find. So
Yeah.
saving time, huge. It does save time, like you said. And do you use any of the Instant Pot type things or slow cooking?
I don't. I've been thinking about getting one. We have a rice cooker. We have a product called Vita Clay. It's kind of like a clay crock pot. I've heard mixed reviews on Instapot, so I'm kind of curious to try it. But since I work from home, it's pretty easy for me to put something on and then come back to it. I think if I was probably out of the house more, I think that's where Instapot's great because you can kind of leave it and go do your thing for the day.
Yeah, I think that I like slow cooker ideas. I am somebody who always used the oven. So I'm just an oven person.
Mhm.
I have used slow cookers. And I love that you can put everything in one pot. I
Yeah.
actually have made meals in my rice cooker,
Mm.
because I'll make the rice, the lentils, and put my veggies all in one pot, and then
Sure.
have a chicken or whatever and just add it to it at the last minute to warm it up. But I love the idea, but I'm an oven person. I'm just the old oven person. We used to do for our big parties, party, and for our parties, we used to do large amounts of food. And
Mhm.
so we were always doing huge cookers,
Sure.
and it's always like hot sausage and stuff. So add variety. This is huge, 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 huge. If you're, and this goes as part of batch cooking. Some people end up batch cooking one type of food,
Mhm.
and then they have all the same food for too many meals.
Sure.
But you can do a couple of batches of different types of food and
Mhm.
then freeze some and eat some. And you have those for a couple of days. Have you done that type of cooking?
I don't do a ton of batch cooking more because it's just two of us. I think if when I was cooking for five, when I was, home in high school and college, for holidays, I would do more of that because there were more people eating. Um, but if I do, I do usually cook enough for like a couple leftover meals. And what I like to do is just put salt and pepper on veggies. And then if I get tired of them, I can add different seasonings. And that can be, because sometimes we get tired of like, okay, I've had broccoli, a couple times this week. And then if you add something different, it can make it, more interesting.
That's great. I like that idea. And in my other little, I don't know where I hid this um, little outline, but I had a huge list of different types of seasonings
Mm.
that can come to mind quickly. And I actually think it would be good for anybody who's listening to make a list of your seasonings that you love and then
Sure.
break it down, because the chili seasoning is a combination of all these different, seasonings. And if you break that down, same with poultry seasoning.
Hmm.
It's combinational. I love sage. I love just adding sage to things.
Hmm.
Basil in your salad
Yep.
just changes the whole flavor.
Yeah, herbs are
If you're going to
great.
plain, I mean, so all those fresh herbs and a little bit of different spices and And the warm spices, which I call warm spices, are like the pumpkin pie spices and
Sure.
apple pie spices. And you take a bit, take those all apart, and they're a totally different flavor just by themselves. So in taco seasoning and shit, all those things. So she goes through the how to meal plan, 7 tips, have a daily template. This is why I'm so sad. I know I have it somewhere, but I put out, I made a little template for people and anybody can go on this site, Wellness Mama, and find this. So that'll be on my page. But I didn't want to rewrite everything, so I figured I'm just going to follow along to share what she's done, because she's done a great job. Focus on core recipes, and you can rotate those throughout the month. Now, I like to do the core recipes, and then I like to throw in some strange recipes that I've had from like my childhood that were holiday recipes. And then, that's something to just add something to it. Do you have any core recipes that you really focus on?
Oh gosh. Not really. I have some, I'd say, salads that we have every week pretty much, and we just add a little something different or do a different salad dressing to make it different. I'd say those probably are my more core recipes that are more in my brain now because I've done them for so many years. But
well, with my family, there were some things that we did that were the Italians always ate all the pasta. We had something called ciabatta. Ciabatta was like an Italian stew.
okay.
And it was all the fresh vegetables from the garden. And you can mix that ciabatta up with anything and just add a little bit of sauce. You don't have to, and that's what I found out. We were overeating sauce like crazy. So you don't want all that extra sauce, and you can put fresh tomatoes in there if you want. But zucchini, onions, peppers, just a little. You don't have to go crazy with it. But we would do it with even green beans, and we would do it sometimes. Just switch it up with a little bit. And I am somebody who's not going to say totally go meat crazy or totally no meat, but sometimes just a little bit of flavor in there, like prosciutto, just a few cubes of prosciutto to give it flavor, like that taste, and then or something. Not everybody's going to do that. Some people are totally meatless. I understand that, but for every once in a while, bringing those recipes in to just throw things up and change it up. I think it's great to go through your core recipes and then every once in a while throw something in that resembles your childhood, but it's not all that extra stuff that you don't need.
Sure.
So stretch your protein. I've learned how to use less meat and just get the flavors of the meat. And a lot of people are using the bone broths and things like that. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I kind of balance. I have a couple meals a week with animal protein and a couple that don't. That's what feels good for my body. But yeah, there's great ways that you can stretch it, kind of like a taco salad or chicken that you cut up and you put it in a soup, but that has a bunch of veggies so you can, make it last for longer for sure.
Right. And I just wanted to mention too, I want to mention this apron I have on, because every time I come on, I'm going to wear a different apron. And this apron is an apron that my mom it was her tablecloth. And we made it into, So I have one that was a dress that she wore when we cooked together, and this one was a tablecloth. So I had that made. But anyway, so I think of these ideas for people who really want to bring their family with them, throughout life. So mix it up. We were talking about the spices, and there's so many different. Do you use spices like from every country?
I do. I cook from, a lot of different, I like eating a lot of different types of cuisine. So yeah, I'm pretty, my fiance loves spicy food. So, I let him put on the extra spice because I'm not as much spice, but yes, I like all different, fresh, dried, all of it is yummy.
Yeah, as I got a little bit older, I started eating more like Thai food and the lemongrass, and I went to dinner once and we had some kind of an unbelievable, it was either mussels or steamed mussels or something, and it was like in this coconut tide. It was the most wonderful thing I've ever tasted in my life.
Mhm.
And so, tasting these different things, a lot of people aren't open to it, but once you just get that flavor, and I think that a lot of things that we haven't mentioned here are that removing some of the sugars from your diet will improve your taste buds so much differently. You will taste things that you never tasted before. and then they will taste sweet. Like you won't believe the sweetness from some of the normal foods that are, or the basic plant foods. Okay, travel the word in your kitchen. That's what we were just talking about. Making foods, the Indian and Thai. And also my husband's partner was Indian. So he was an Indian. They're both physicians and urologists, and so we learned their way of cooking. So,
Sure.
yeah, so I love that. And so don't be a short order cook. This is all about children. I mean, introducing um, just natural foods into these children's lives early on
Mhm.
is just parsley and cilantro, just getting them to taste it. I remember when I was really toxic with sugar, cilantro tasted so much like tin, I wouldn't even touch it, and that's how much our flavoring and our taste buds change when your body goes back to some homeostasis. And you don't even realize that, but I don't know about if that ever happened to you. Had that ever happened where you tasted one kind of spice in it or herb?
I don't know that that's happened to me. I mean, I will say when started really eating more whole foods, that my sensitivity to sweet things or super salty things, it's pretty, I have to be pretty careful now because I'll eat something and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this is so sweet. But to somebody else, they're like, this isn't sweet at all. So you're definitely your kind of tolerance and taste buds surely change over time.
Yeah, yeah, and you come to appreciate too what these vegetables and fruits really have going for them. And yeah, and now we're going to number 7, which is eat leftovers for breakfast and lunch. What's the craziest thing you've eaten for breakfast?
Oh gosh, probably spaghetti.
Well, we used to eat pizza all the time for breakfast.
Yeah, I'm
So
more of a I love smoothies, I love eggs, uh, I love, non-dairy yogurt with berries. But yes, I do remember one time I had spaghetti for
yeah,
breakfast.
we were big in that. My mom would make pizza on a Friday night or a Saturday night, and the next day we were just eating leftovers.
Yep.
But there was more to that. And then she would make pizza frita, which was fried dough with a bunch of powdered sugar on it, and we were just, yeah, we were all full of carbohydrates there. But anyway, so more recently, I have really changed things up to the point of sometimes my breakfast might be salmon.
Hmm.
So I've done salmon for breakfast. And we know that they used to serve it on the airplane. Sometimes you would get these different things, Mediterranean style meals that,
Sure.
yeah, that just serve something very different. And I have eaten chicken for breakfast before. So if it's in my fridge and I ran out of eggs, I'm going for whatever the protein is in there. And that's the thing, that comes up, whatever's the best for me to last throughout the day. So
Hmm.
yeah, eating leftovers for breakfast and lunch. And something else I wanted to mention real quick was that I know that a lot of people go out and buy salads. And some of these places have salads that are so large that you can break it down into 2 to 3 meals.
Sure.
Yeah, I had the place I mentioned before was Hello Bistro. They pack that salad in there. I have made that into 3 meals. And you can, that can last for 1 or 2 meals one
Hmm.
day, and then the leftover, like I'd have it for dinner that night and breakfast the next morning or something, and add your own other protein to it, or mix it up. But, I just mentioned that because I know a lot of people are saying their salads are so expensive. Well, some of those salads are huge, and you really don't need all of that salad, where you can put it as a side dish for something else. So organizing your shopping list. What have you done? I mean, do you use your phone? What if you?
No, I'm a paper, I get a big, it's like a legal pad, and I divide it by the sections of the store. So all the produce, all the
Nice.
meat, all the, cleaning products, exactly like that. Yep. And it just helps me get, everything that I need, I'm getting in one section. I'm not going back and forth all across the store. And I kind of do it in a way where then as I go through the store, I'm just picking things off my list as I go. So that seems to work for me. And not many people make lists on paper, because every time I go, people comment on my, oh my gosh, you're so organized. And I'm like, it works for me. So
Right. And that is what we do for my coaching. Whatever works for you, the person, because if you're going to get an app and it doesn't do what you are going to do routinely, why have the app? Exactly. But there are people who they love to work from their phone. They love apps. They love everything. So yeah, I say, do what works for you. Okay, so and I actually use the memo section on my phone, and they have a little grid, and then I just put in there every time I'm missing something. I also use Alexa. I tell Alexa to put my shopping list. If I forget something, Alexa, put that on my shopping list. And before I make my list, I ask Alexa, what's on my shopping list? So everybody does it differently. And there are a lot of Alexa's talking to me because I said her name. Oh my gosh. Okay, so there's seasonal meal plans. She's got it all gone. Here's what I wanted to put up, the meat. So this is just not, these are animal proteins. That's what I call them, animal proteins. There's no fish on here, except for salmon. And I like to really purchase cod. And does she have cod on there? Yeah. Yeah, the whitefish and the cod, I really focus on some of those and make sure that my freezer has those in there. At least every 2 weeks, I refill the salmon in the whitefish section. And then these other ones, I do have them in my freezer, but I eat those, along the way. And I make sure that I get at least 2 good animal proteins in a day. So I don't know, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I try to have, fish once a week. I love salmon. Salmon's great, for all of us out there that need more vitamin D. Eating about, 4 ounces of salmon gives most people a sufficient amount of D for an entire week. So I love salmon. I live in San Francisco, so I usually feel very lucky. I get to get my fish right from the market. So I get what they have. But Vital, I think she linked it actually up above, Vital Choice. They have great, if you're further away from the ocean and want fresh, really, sustainably caught high quality fish, Vital Choice is a great option.
Well, that's great to know. And that's another reason why I like to hear what other people have experienced, what they've used, what works for them. I know that I have a number of places. I haven't tried them all, but I'm hearing good things. I am going to shoot right over to some ideas real quick that I have used because we're going to run out of time. So I always want to mention these glass containers, and they have a little lid over top that, goes right.
Do you want to, if you stop the sharing, it might be easier for them to see it because you're kind of a small screen now.
Okay, stop. Oh, yeah, okay, so stop the share.
Yeah, because they might be able to see it better.
Oh, I do that. Whoops. No, that's not what I'm going to do.
If you can. If you can't, that's okay.
How do I do it? Um,
I'll have to
oh,
open
no,
all.
no, I know how to do that. It's right here. It says stop share. So
There
yeah, so these little glass containers that you can purchase either online. I got this from Bed Bath and Beyond, and they're called Simple Choice, I believe. And Simply Essential is what they're called. Then I got another one that I love. This is called Greener Chef, and it has a little wooden lid to go over top. I like those too because they're nice and flat.
Yep.
And they're simple. That's a bamboo top thing. I don't know about you, but occasionally I have a lot of leftover cups that are portable cups. And sometimes when I travel, I'll put food in my portable cup and I'll have it ready so that I can just use it, either a soup or a salad. And then like sometimes I'll even have a soup and a salad, and then I'll just put them in my little tote and take those along with me so that I can eat when I'm traveling. And then I love, anything that's Corningware, that's small. These are good small size bowls. And I have some other things that I wanted to share. For kids, I think this is a nice idea to use little jars that have a little handle. And I found those for sale online. And they were actually, someone was selling them from their garage. It was a garage sale, and I bought like several cases because I have plans for that. But I also wanted to mention, because I know this is very popular, is this, I don't know if you can see it.
There you
The
go.
Mason jar cookbook.
Yep, I have
And
one.
you have one of the, yeah, the mason jars. Now, these don't have ball mason jar written on it, but we have a lot of local markets that sell the mason jars.
Yep.
My poor puppy's going crazy because he's going to go outside. So we're going to wrap things up because I didn't get to share everything tonight, but we did share some really basic things about food prep and about storage. And there's even these little books too, 7 days a week. These can be bought at, you won't believe it, I found these at TJ Maxx, and you can find them sometimes at Five Below. And they're called Knock Knock. You can go online and get Knock Knock, and they have great things on there. And it even helps with action items. But in my book, I have a few other things that I promote. So Lindley, I really appreciate you being here. And sharing everything that you did. I'm going to post a lot of stuff on my For the Hell of It site on a special document for people to access. And I hope maybe sometime in the future we get to reconnect and maybe do another one of these sessions. And yeah, so I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. If you watch this, I really hope that you took away some things for food prep for tonight, and that you have a wonderful, safe, healthy next couple of weeks, next couple of days, whatever it is, and go out and do your shopping. Thanks a lot, Lindy.
All right. Bye, everybody. Bye, Diane.